É melhor ser alegre que ser triste, alegria é melhor coisa que existe, é assim como a luz no coração. Mas pra fazer um samba com beleza, é preciso um bocado de tristeza, é preciso um bocado de tristeza, senão não se faz o samba. Fazer samba não é botar piada, quem faz samba assim não é de nada, o samba é uma forma de oração. Porque o samba é a tristeza que balança, a tristeza tem sempre uma esperança, a tristeza tem sempre uma esperança de um dia não ser mais triste, não. Põe um pouco de amor numa cabeça e vai ver que ninguém no mundo vence a beleza que tem no samba, não. Porque o samba nasceu lá na Bahia, se hoje ele é branco na poesia, se hoje ele é branco na poesia, ele é negro de coração. É melhor ser alegre que ser triste, alegria é melhor coisa que existe, assim como a luz no coração.
right, do we have a better connection now? So we can just relive and pick up where we left. Do we have a better connection? Brent, can you just give me a thumbs up to let me know that we're much better? Okay, thank you, Renee. Oh, thank you, Michaela. Thank you, Yolanda. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. So I'm sure you know that this is how life is, right? So this new way of working, this new way, there's Ronald as well. Thank you. This new way of working has really left us with this sense of, having to really be innovative. Things don't work and we sort of have to work with things not working, as we just did now. And I hope I didn't look like a complete fool because I couldn't actually see what the feedback was, but it turns out that Brent, who's our technical producer in the background, actually took us off stage anyway. Else I would have felt like that newsreader is stuck with nothing to say and not knowing what's going on. So anyone, welcome everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And today, as I was saying before, and I think people couldn't hear me, so I'll try to just recap what I was saying is, this is a trying and challenging time under COVID-19 that we all are gathering here today. We're all coming together. But what I want to do this afternoon, I want to actually use this as an opportunity to sort of say we're gathering here to form a community of small business owners, I guess, and also just a community of people, because it doesn't only affect small business owners. Although today, this webinar is particularly brought to you by the sort of kind work and very generous and thoughtful and foresightful work by the SimplyBiz division, which is part of Nedbank's business banking and small business enterprise division. So this is how I am here, and I'm really grateful for this opportunity and this chance to gather with you here today and to kind of share some of the things that that I can offer you as a clinical psychologist, that I can offer you in terms of helping you to stay safe, stay sane, and to indeed to stay economically viable under this particularly trying time. So I think without further ado, I want everyone to just settle into your posture wherever you find yourself right now, wherever you're dialing into. Settle into your posture, make sure that you're comfortable, make sure that you have something to nourish yourself. Have a drink, a coffee, a tea, or water, whatever it is that you need to nourish yourself. Make sure you have that handy, you have that close by to you. And just make yourself comfortable. One of the beauties of being able to work from home in this particular point in time is we really can make ourselves quite comfortable. And this is really the moment where I urge you to make yourself comfortable so that we can really elevate and sort of take ourselves to a different level of being at this particular point in time. So without further ado, I think, just want to go in on the side. I don't know if your screen looks exactly the same as mine, but in the side, you'll see there's a chat room. There's a place where you can chat. And that's where you can chat to me and, like we've done now, and just, said, hi and checking in. It was lovely to see all of you there. Ronald, Yolandi, Michaela, Renee Bull, Stella Hewer, Ina LaRue. It's, these are all the people that have tuned in today. So that's the place to just say hi and to sort of connect. Then you'll see in the next tab, you'll see there's a place where you can ask questions. So use that tab to ask any specific questions as I'm talking, or as I'm talking to one of the guests that are on stage at a particular point in time. You can ask questions there, and between myself and Brent, the producer in the background, we're going to make sure that those questions get handled and answered. Okay, so so that's basically the most that you need to know. But to start us off, I really want to just use this time to almost just get us to settle, to just find our feet again. And I'm sure you have these kinds of webinars all day long, different places, different times, different meetings, all the time, ongoing. And the reality is what we know clinically, that these online sessions are really quite exhausting on the brain. So for example, for those of you that I've seen before, Yolandi, Michaela, people that I've seen in person before, it's really difficult for the brain to really understand what is happening. So for example, if you've seen somebody before, you have a sense of how they are in the room, how they present themselves, probably how they really sound just through your ears and not through an audio framework. But in these sort of Zoom sessions, in these online sessions, it can become very confusing for the brain, because the brain says, okay, there's Yolandi. I can see Yolandi, for example, but I don't see the rest of Yolandi. So what's going on? Is it her? And it's actually unconsciously, our brain is constantly processing this. So there, just on a fly, just to share with you right there, the reason why you're feeling more tired than usual from all these from all these Zoom sessions is exactly that. Your brain is really struggling to make sense of. Your brain is really struggling to make sense of what's happening. Somebody just dialed in and said no audio. So now I'm wondering if it's Moketsi, welcome. I think just check on your side, make sure that you have connected to sort of using your computer's own audio to hear. Just check that, because as nobody else has pointed out that they can't hear, so I think it may be on your side. But welcome anyway, and we hope that you can get resolved quite quickly there. So I want us to just settle, and what I'm going to do is I want to do a short, it's probably a 3-minute just meditation, just helping you to just let go of all the feelings that have come about during the course of this day, and indeed over the whole course of this lockdown. I think today we're sitting on the if I can just okay, good. Sorry, I was just thrown by the chat there. So Moketsi, I see that Brent is busy sorting out your sound there on that side. Okay, great. So yeah, if we can just, what I want us to do is I'm just going to reach over here. I'm going to do a short meditation with you, but it's a guided meditation. And it's a meditation brought to you by also a clinical psychologist, but also somebody who particularly uses meditation as part of the psychological process. So I'm going to share a very short few minutes of a meditation with you, and this meditation is quite simply just called, or looks at particularly just feelings that are like waves. So I'm going to invite you into this very short meditation. I'm going to play it for you on the audio. I hope everyone can hear. If you can just yeah, I think we're all ready. Okay, good. So if you can maybe just start by closing your eyes wherever you are, and just bring your attention to your breathing and to your breath. And when I start playing this short audio meditation, I invite you to embrace the meditation on your side.
Choosing your posture, sitting like a mountain, standing like a tree, or lying down, feeling the earth beneath you and the sky above. Close your eyes. Today we are going to imagine the ocean, the waves of the ocean coming and going, ebbing and flowing. Big waves, small waves, gentle waves, stormy waves. Your feelings are like waves. They come and they go. Sometimes you can ride those waves. Sometimes they knock you over. Sometimes they are pleasant, playful waves. There is always the ground to come back to, the shore to stand on. Whatever feelings are there, you can always find solid ground, a quiet place in yourself that becomes a resting place. None of your feelings is wrong. You are allowed to feel whatever is there, remembering that those feelings are just waves moving through your body, your heart, and your mind. Sometimes we need to give ourselves more space to feel what is there in our hearts. And as we give our feelings space, they begin to change, just like the waves in the ocean. Place a hand on the heart and a hand on the belly. And keeping your eyes closed, listen to what you are feeling now. How would you describe those feelings? Can you notice how your feelings are making your body feel? Can you find some words to describe these feelings? Notice how they come and go, breathing in and breathing out, feeling the support of the earth, and allowing those waves of feelings to come and to go, to ebb and to flow.
Right, so that was a guided meditation brought to you by a colleague of mine, Sue Cooper. And the reason why I thought we'd start with that short meditation is just really that this time of COVID-19 has brought up many different feelings, many fears, many anxieties, many worries for many of us. And this particular practice of meditation is very useful to help us to just stay calm and to be able to just keep our minds a little bit more in check, a little bit more in control. Because what happens when we're anxious is that the anxious brain starts to be evoked. So we start thinking about the what ifs. We start thinking about what if my business doesn't make it. We start talking about what if I get sick? What if somebody in my family gets sick? So we have a lot of what if thinking, and this is what is called catastrophic thinking. But before I evoke you into all of that catastrophic thinking, I think let me just start by giving a good foundation about why I am here particularly today. So as most of you know, and from the advertising that's been sent out, my name is Bradley Daniels. I'm a clinical psychologist. I trained at Wits University. My first degree was in law. And then I did my applied psychology honors at Wits University. And then I worked for a bit in the human resources space. I worked in the fast FMCG business. I also worked in marketing, and then I decided that I wanted to pursue my career to become a clinical psychologist, and I was awarded the International Ford Foundation Fellowship, with which I moved to New York City, and I did my Master's for Counseling in Mental Health and Wellness at NYU in New York City. My training was done at the Institute for Human Identity and also International House in New York City. And upon my return to South Africa, I worked at Chris Hani Baragwanath Academic Hospital in Soweto, where I looked after the adult psychiatric male and female wards. And then I always say to new patients that I work with, I always say, and then for my sins, whether future or past sins, I then worked for correctional services on the west coast of South Africa, where I worked with offenders in the correctional services center space, and then after that I returned and I'm in private practice as a clinical psychologist in Hyde Park, Sandton, South Africa. So now, this particular time of COVID-19 for me has almost been a archetypal or epoch of my career, and these are the reasons why. And then I'm explaining that to you, not just to sort of show off what my fancy footwork is, but really to tell you the kinds of skill that I want you to tap into today to help us to sort of make a better scenario for each one of us here. So I also am an international affiliate with Doctors Without Borders. And during my time with Doctors Without Borders, I worked during the Ebola outbreak. And I provided psychological and mental health support for other doctors, nurses, service providers who would be returning from Ebola hotspots on different missions around the world. And then also, I think my experiences at correctional services have also served me quite well at this particular point in time, because what a lot of people are experiencing during this time is the sense of having your freedoms limited, because that's actually what's happening here with regards to sort of the lockdown. The lockdown is a situation where people's freedoms are limited. Your freedom, my freedom, everyone's freedom is limited. And so some of the issues that we are seeing are really and the issues I'm hearing in my practice as well are no different to the issues that offenders have, living in prison. For example, stress is a real factor at this point in time. And I want each and every person that is listening and watching us today to know that if you're feeling stressed at this particular point in time, it is normal. If you're feeling very anxious at this point in time, that too is normal. So I wanted to just start off by normalizing that experience for you, so that you don't think, what's wrong with me? What's happening? Why am I not coping as good as the next person? Or that it is a stressful time. And what we know when we are stressed, fundamentally, everything that was pre-existing for us is now almost pushed up. Is pushed up by a couple of notches. So, for example, if you are somebody that under normal circumstances is already quite an anxious person, what is then going to happen is that when you add stress onto that picture, you're going to be more anxious than what is normal even for you. Okay. And indeed, that's what we see in clinically. So people that are anxious are now super anxious. Indeed, people that have been diagnosed as having an anxiety disorder are really struggling at this point in time. The second category of people are people that are struggling with obsessive compulsive disorder or OCD, whether formally diagnosed or they have OCD traits. We've heard people on social media say, oh, my OCD just kicked in the other day again, or whatever the case may be. In that case, it's probably not formal formal OCD. It rather is just the person has OCD traits. But anyway, nonetheless, under the stressful time, that OCD is going to be up a notch. So for example, I exaggerated often to patients. I say, those people that are having OCD tendencies are going to find themselves washing their hands like 23 hours out of a 24-hour day. And this will then lead to them actually only having one hour left in a day to sleep, rest, work, do all of those things. So you can see that the functioning is really going to be quite low. And then the third category, and this is a category which I'm very concerned about. And for everyone listening and watching, really listen quite closely to these categories. And if you fall into any of them, my first recommendation is get professional support for that, and particularly at this particular point in time. So the third category, which is a category we never hear much about, is the patients that are struggling with depression. So if for the depressed patient, when the lockdown started happening or even the pandemic started unfolding, if I can mimic for you what a depressed patient would sound like, they would be like, yeah, here we are. Thank you. Welcome to my world. Now you know what it feels like. And they would get back into bed and cover their heads and curl. But think about Eeyore in Winnie the Pooh stories. Eeyore is the typical depressed individual. And those individuals are very worrisome as well, because firstly, the lockdown is going to suit them very well, because the lockdown now gives us permission not to have to engage with other people. And one of the almost biggest pitfalls for depression is the real sense of social isolation that people feel. And this is counterproductive to the person recovering from that depression. Right. And what we also know is that depression is going to almost render us, like all other illnesses, is going to render us almost feeling a little bit disabled. Like, so the people that are depressed will tell you that it's difficult to get out of bed sometimes. It's difficult to make it to a shower. It's difficult to, get to a shower, get dressed, and go to work. So, and I think for those of you that are employers, so that you in your small businesses, you're also employing staff. I mean, it's important to understand what this looks like. So, for example, we assume that just getting to work is easy enough. But, and I guess most of us in big metropolitans and big cities around the world, around South Africa as well, we fundamentally just get in our cars, we drive, we get to work, and we're there. But somebody who's depressed, or even anxious for that matter, or even has OCD, for them, it's not as simple as just getting to work. By the time they've made it to work, they're exhausted to begin with. And, for example, for them to really focus on doing the job becomes a really new difficulty. So there was a bit of smoke coming in here past my face. I have some incense burning. So if you're wondering what that was, so those are some of the things that we have to consider. Now, this last category I really want you to pay attention to is this particular point in time that we're living in is also a time of deep trauma. And that's almost the common one that impacts every single person. So firstly, trauma is sort of trauma we talk about is when there is a sense of a threat to our lives, whether that threat is real or imagined. That's when we get a stress reaction, which we call a trauma response, right? But what also is part of trauma is where there is a loss. There's a loss of something. So there's a loss of livelihood. That's deeply traumatic. There's a loss of a relationship. That's deeply traumatic. There's a loss of income, perhaps. There's a loss of a former life. There's a loss of a status. I've worked with people over this short period of time with COVID-19 where some businesses have cut down on people. Some international businesses have changed. Some businesses have CEOs in different parts in the world, and they've had to say, listen, we only can afford one CEO. So the CEO in Europe, like, your job is done, and the CEO in the USA carries on with their job. So obviously there's a loss of status even. So let's say that CEO now just becomes a executive, but not a CEO anymore. So loss of status, deep trauma. The thing about trauma, and so too with stress, trauma is cumulative. So when we have this trauma now of even losing the former life that we knew. So, for example, as I said at the beginning, while we couldn't really hear, at the beginning, as I said, under normal circumstances, we would be rushing home. I can see the traffic already around, particularly around Johannesburg, which is where I am. You can see the traffic, and I can see everyone sort of just wanting to call it a weekend. We can't do that anymore. So it's a loss of the life as we used to know it. That in its own is traumatic. So we're all sitting in a deep state of trauma. Now, the tricky bit, which I think individually we have to think about, is that individual trauma is going to trigger our own scripts of trauma. So everyone in the group here has had some experience of trauma, has lost a parent, has lost a loved one, has broken up in a relationship, perhaps has lost a job already, has been retrenched before. So this trauma we're sitting in now, it's not unusual or unlikely for all those other traumas to resurface at this particular point in time. So again, the point of that long explanation is to know that if any of these things that I've mentioned now are happening to you, rather acknowledge and accept and normalize that it's okay that this is happening to me right now, and let me get the relevant support and help to help me with this right now. The thing not to do is to be in denial. Like, come on, Bradley, you should be tougher than that. You should know better. Like, what behavior is this, worrying about this and that? Just move on. That's not the way to go about it. And the reason for that is this is a time of needing to be incredibly gentle with ourselves, needing to take care of ourselves, right? So that's a good place to start. So, I haven't seen any questions yet from anyone, and I've just taken a big sigh of relief there, just to pause myself, to just remind myself to kind of just stay connected and stay right here. So actually what I'm doing there, I'm also showing you on the fly how to use mindfulness to help yourself in a situation where you feel like, okay, there's a lot of things going on here. And mindfulness, just as a reminder, mindfulness is the practice, that's number one, of staying in the here and now without judgment. So that's three things, the practice. So for those of you that do yoga, play the piano, or anything like that, you can't, for example, play the piano by just watching YouTube videos. You actually have to practice it, and that's how your skill will build. So mindfulness is the same. You've got to practice. The second thing is staying in the here and now. So what is the here and now? So this is exactly what I've been doing throughout this webinar so far, is to really, in fact, before we started, a lot of my work was around presencing myself to be able to stay as present as possible with everything that happens here. Because it's when we are in this present moment that we really are able to tend to very fine, subtle details in situations. Because usually it's when we leave the present that we're going to the future or the past, and that's when we start to lose. And what we're losing is because we are connecting into the stories in our head, not what is really happening. So do you remember earlier when I just acknowledged and said the smoke that flew past here was just some incense burning in this particular office right now. So the third piece is without judgment. Now, this is an important piece, and this is a piece that most of us struggle with. So, for example, right? So, let's take earlier in the session. I was a bit confused. I didn't know what was happening. You couldn't hear me. Is all of this working out okay? Not knowing what's happening. And it would have been quite easy for me to get lost. Whatever drama I had in my head about this not working well, me not doing well, whatever the case may be. But instead, what I just had to do is this is how it is right now. Full stop. No other judgment thereafter. So, for example, the thing that I have been encouraging a lot of people to slip out of just right now in terms of COVID-19 is we keep hearing in the media about how do we get used to this new normal. And I say, stop that. It's not a new normal. By you saying that, thank you, Stella. By you saying that this is not, this is a new normal. In that moment, it shows that in your head, you're allowing your head to make a judgment that this is either one thing is abnormal and the other thing is normal. That makes it difficult for us to integrate and to basically just live and work with things as they are. So right now, I invite you in this moment to just connect with life is exactly as it was meant to be right now, full stop. And then we can work with what is challenging. So what is challenging is that this is difficult. This is really hard. What is challenging is that this is frightening. That's what I hear a lot. And this is for me as the human being. I saw a question there. I'm going to get to the question shortly, Tsepo. I just want to finish this piece here. Is that it's also frightening about what's going to happen in the future. So Tsepo Makete asked us here, going into the future, we also need to understand lessons learned. I don't know how to make that fully big. Sorry, Tsep, I'm just battling to see the full question, but I'll try and do the best I can. Going into the future, we also need to understand lessons learned or lessons we are learning from COVID-19 business-wise. Okay. All right, okay. I don't know how to make the question bigger so I can get the full question. But anyway, I get a sense of what you're asking, Tsepo, and we'll get into that right this moment, okay? So just acknowledge that it's a difficult time. So what I want to do without further ado, I've asked a colleague, friend, and someone that is very close to my heart, Ronald, to join me for a short conversation as a business owner to just share with us as a means for all of us. And I think this is actually open to anyone on here. So remember, part of what we can do in this space, I can actually invite you on stage. So I was actually laughing yesterday with the production team saying, so we should maybe tell people to sort of get semi-dressed or something like that for the seminar in case I invite you on stage, so there's no surprise. But anyway, so Ronald, there you are on stage. Thank you, Brent, for bringing Ronald on there. Ronald, I don't know, your mic, I can't hear you. I saw you waving, but I can't hear you. So can you just check on your side? Yes, I can hear you. So Ronald, as a business owner, business owner of Healthy Living Consulting and the CEO of that, tell me what this has been like for you. I mean, you've heard some of what I've said now, and I'd asked you graciously if you would join, the session so that we can almost model in a way some of the things that you've been struggling with as a business owner, and indeed me also as a business owner, and how you've worked with work through that. So maybe that's the first thing. Just how has this time been for you?
Well, I must first say good afternoon to everyone, and to the SimplyBiz team. I said this is fantastic. I mean, to have this resource available for us as business owners, because it's not just dealing with myself as this lockdown hit. I have a 12-year-old now. She had a lockdown birthday, everyone. Yes, I had a celebration somehow, some way. Got very creative with presents. And in that process, Bradley, it was about myself. It was about my team, my colleagues, my employees. They now need to be resourced to work from home if they can. It then boiled down to clients, because clients would then say, we cannot pay. We need to cut down how much we pay you. So coupled with all those stresses, and then I had personal stresses. My dad was in an armed robbery in January, and he was seriously injured. He was wounded and was shot. And I was concerned about him. So all of these stresses led to me reaching a space where it became a dark space for me. And I'll share this with everyone out there. I live with depression every day. You know that about me, Bradley. And within that space, I needed to become more mindful than I ever have been. So when you speak about the meditation, about the conscientiousness, I needed to literally take time for me. So I stepped back from everybody and I said to myself, I need to look after me before I can look after my family and
Sure.
my family business. And you know, I look at them as family in the business. And that was for me one of the biggest struggles as I hit into this lockdown phase.
Wow, wow, Ronald. Again, thank you for sharing so authentically with us. I know that, I mean, it just for the, you know, for the viewers, you and I did not talk about that. We didn't talk about what you would share and what you wouldn't share. But I acknowledge you and you know, for just sharing what you experienced. And I think by sharing your experience, I think many people are watching out there and listening and thinking, wow, my story is not that different.
Yeah.
So so I guess the first thing is, and I just want to just, you said some interesting things. So one, you mentioned around your family, your family and family business is what you mentioned, right?
Yeah.
And the reality, and this is something I also personally experienced in a very deep way. I always knew it, but I experienced it in a very deep way recently, which is the people we work with become like family.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And especially in your own small business, they become like family, right? Because it's like your all your livelihoods are dependent on one another. And so small businesses are incredibly intimate spaces, more intimate than bigger corporates, if I can put it. Right. And even in bigger corporates, I mean, having worked in a corporate setting as well, you know, it's like your team also becomes your people. You have your people in the organization, right? But there's this level of safety that one finds in a big corporate that is a little bit more, how shall I say, it's a little bit more, it's like walking a tightrope in a family business, because we said right now, right? So in your own family business, or in your business with the people that you do employ, you now have to have those discussions around, guys, our clients have cut down on our retainers and so forth.
Yeah.
So that means that as a business, we have to cut down, right? How have you handled that? Or what was that like for you? What did that bring up for you?
Yeah, man, Bradley, that was real in the context of that in my life, I had to learn what emotional intelligence was. And if I think about it, I'm still a learner thereof. But in having that discussion, I first needed to identify what are the facts? What are the facts that I'm dealing with? What is the reality? And the reality spoke to the fact that I had clients that cut us down by 70% of our monthly retainers. I had clients that says, we can't pay you for the next 2 months. And work has been done. We've paid providers. And within that facts, I realized that my employees are dealing with so much uncertainty. And within that uncertainty that they're dealing with, I needed to give them some sort of honest base to leverage off. So I had to have honest conversations. And what I did was, I immediately as lockdown hit, I took time for myself. Within 2 or 3 days, I went to the team and I said, guys, we're going to start having daily check-ins. Every morning at 8:30, you dial in. It doesn't matter whether you are helping us with cleaning the office or whether you are one of our senior managers. Everybody's going to dial in so that everybody at one point can feel and see the reality of what we are dealing with. So when the decision came to have individual conversations, my team members said to me a few weeks later, they said, Ronald, we anticipated it was coming because you prepared us by having those open conversations collectively. And we're okay with it. But guess what? We're behind you 300%. We're behind you. How do we innovate? What do you need to support you to help us grow this business together? And that was what, for me, honest conversations, group conversations, consistent conversations, and I felt it.
Absolutely, Ronald, and I think you bring a very important thing which I need to share with you. I think in my own practice as a psychologist, I had I would say I call it a gift. I had the gift of working with COVID-19 since about early January this year. Mm-hmm. So by virtue of working with a patient from Hubei, China, which is right next to Wuhan. So I really had to get my ducks in a row quite early on in the process. And, you know, and that firstly, again, from a business point of view, gave me the opportunity to start my readiness quite early. So by the time we had patient zero, which I remember the day distinctly was March 12th, I had been ready. And because also people in my practice, so the patients I work with in my practice have also been ready. Many of them are traveling anyway. Many of them are traveling to Switzerland, traveling to the United States. So while we had no cases in South Africa, they were already understanding we needed to talk about, okay, you're traveling next week. Let's talk about what you're going to do to keep yourself safe. What are the things that you talk about? What anxieties do you have about traveling? So literally, we were quite ready for that. And in fact, even in terms of business innovation from my side, I moved my practice 100% online, probably at the start of March already. So, and again, in my practice, I did the preparation with everyone. The guys, this is our emergency plan when this should happen. Right? So by the time we went fully online, by March 12th, everyone was ready. I had 100% conversion rate. And I remember the sweetest, gentlest moment I had was with a 69-year-old patient who at first said, I'm not too sure whether I can do this online thing, but I'll give it a try. And he did. And we gave it took me 60 minutes to talk him through getting sorted on a WhatsApp call, and also, on the computer and saying, no, click there. Okay, update, go from Internet Explorer, go now to open it Chrome, But I tell you, the connection that was formed between the two of us after that, and this gentleman also has family, abroad, and he's like, can I host things myself? I said, go ahead, you can host any time of day, and those little human moments, those moments. Welcome, Apula. You joined at the right time. There's a thing. There's somebody joined now. There's a thing like perfect timing. The Kairos and the Chronos. This is the right time. It's your time to come. So welcome, Apula. It's that innovation. We have to be innovative. I just want to thread something from a psychological point of view out from what you've said, which I think is very useful. The uncertainty. So I've been saying consistently to people on all other media engagements I've done, I say to people, you know what, this is such an uncertain time, but I can give you some certainty. And this is a certainty I'm going to give you. This time is going to be uncertain for a long time to come. This time is going to be uncomfortable for a long time to come. Those two things are the two things I can guarantee you. So if you're a bookie and you want to bet on those things, you're going to win, right? And you see, when we started the lockdown, Ronald, particularly when did we start lockdown? I don't even know. Because for me, life just went on life just went on. I was working like crazy throughout this time. So, but we're about on day 56 or 7, I'm imagining, something like that. Remember when it was the only 21 days that they have pushed forward? Do you remember how we responded as South Africans? South Africans were like, yeah. Some people were like, some time off from work. Others were like, yeah, I'm going to do Master Chef online. I'm going to do Deepak Chopra's this and that and all of that, which are all great things to do. But the piece I was not hearing from people was that we need to have more sustainable things pieces of resilience that keeps us through. Right? So I don't know, and I know you're an exercise person. So the fact that the gym has taken away from you, it means your tools of coping is now taken away from you. So how did you work with that?
Bradley, man, come now, man. You know this, man. The gym doesn't equate to me getting fit and healthy. My body is my gym. So when I equate that my body is my gym, that was my mindset, always. And within that space, I said that where can my body get active? My body can get active while sitting in a chair. Right now, am I engaging my core? Hashtag my Mkaba has fallen. The six-pack is there. So when you reframe everything, Bradley, I'm still active. I'm just active in a very fun, interesting way. I'm just, I'm still eating healthy in a very fun, interesting, unique way. I am still connecting with my family because I reframed that I'm not in lockdown. I'm not in a prison space. I'm in a safe space. I'm safe. So all of those reframings happen. And the same thing happened in the workplace where I reframed the work to my colleagues. And I said to them, team, we are still at work, but in a very fun way. So now, how do we then bring the energy, the vibe, and the innovation? And I must tell you, Bradley, in this period, with all the stresses, don't get me wrong, man, it's not a bed of roses, man. The struggle is real. Every day the struggle is real, but so are the opportunities. And when I have the rallying behind of my team, I always say, my team lifts me up when I'm down and lifts me up when I'm higher. And I do that for my team. And when we bring that ethos in, I'm not in locked down. I'm not in locked out. I'm in an opportunity space. It's tough, but we're nurturing that culture within each other.
Yes. Absolutely, Ron. And one of the things that I want to share with you and share with all the viewers right now as well is that I've been saying from the beginning, this is such a moment for us to upgrade our lives.
Oh,
To upgrade our businesses. And so, for example, and this is how I put it. So I say COVID-19 is saying to us, listen, go to your house and stay there and sit still. That's what it's saying to us fundamentally. It's saying go to your house and sit still, because it's quite simple. If the virus is not, it doesn't move. If you don't move, it doesn't move. So if you sit still, then it's not going to move. The more movement and restlessness you have, the more movement you are giving it. And that's what we are seeing. But there's an additional step here. It's go to your house, sit in your house, sit still, go inside, have a look at your life. See what it is that you like and see what it is that you don't like. And this is the time to make the change, right? So too for our businesses, right? So many businesses are now having to realize, hey, why do I need that big office? Right? Why do I need this big office? Like, here I am working. I mean, when I saw this arrangement for the first time, I was busy watching a show on Al Jazeera, and it literally was just when everything was started, and I got so excited. I mean, viewers may not know this, but I think you know this about me. I started my career in broadcasting, so.
yes.
For me, I always look at these things I get so passionate. And I saw this presenter doing his show on Al Jazeera from his flat in London. And I was like, never in a minute or a day in a news environment would you ever see anything like that. It's just not going to happen. So, so really that was just like to show us we need to start thinking things through. And right now, I mean, almost every news program has something like that set up. I did an interview with the Chinese Global Network Television from my office, and the journalist was in her apartment. That wouldn't have happened before, So we really are having to do things differently. Innovation. Now, let's just get I want to get to some more juicy stuff in the time that we have left over. But for example, with innovation now, business innovations, what I know as a psychologist that when we are in a state of distress, right? Whether we're feeling anxious, we're feeling depressed, we're feeling traumatized. The challenge is that our brains don't work that well at that time. Our cognition, our thinking does not work that well, right?
Yeah.
I really would like for people to sort of come in, ask questions like Sepo's done, but just join us here. Let us know what you're struggling with, I think we can have up to, I think we're told 4 people on set at a time. So if there's anyone else who's got a question, who wants to maybe ask me something specific, and maybe also tap into like Ronald's own experience as well, and just share with us, please just give me an indication and I will bring you on screen. It's pretty easy to do, but in the meanwhile, I'm going to just continue to work, knowing that you are there. But please, if you have a question that you want to ask or you want to share something with us, either pop it in the question. Question you'll see is on your right. There's a box. We'll put it in the question there, or we'll just put it in the chat. So you can't be innovative, Ronald, if your mind is a bit in a if I can put it in just lay terms, in a bit of a fog. You can't be innovative. In fact, you are enshrouded by the fear of. I mean, we know what the business owner, what financial stress feels like, right? We know when an invoice is not being paid, right? We know when you have to sort of fight to get an invoice paid, right? So we know what that feels like. And I think at this point in time, with COVID-19, as you said, some clients have had to just say, listen. I think of the work I've been doing in the advertising space. A lot of advertising agencies are struggling now because clients are just saying, hey, listen, guys, we're not going to be advertising that much for the next however many months. So we quite simply have to cut our retainer from 10 million to 5 million, right? And that means that leaves that business 5 million short, which leaves staff 5 million short, right? So it becomes a new stress environment. So one of the things about COVID-19, which I think is really beautiful to share, and excuse my words for calling it beautiful. I call it beautiful because it's a gift. It's forcing us to do things differently. So the gift is the following. So COVID-19 does also the following. It is a big disruptor in terms of business, right? It's a disruptor. It says, hey, stop, gyms closed, you can't work, right? Disrupts that business. So that businesses have to find other ways to stay alive, right? It's a big illuminator. Right? So in other words, things that always existed. So for example, if you had a client that was not paying you, it was not paying you regularly or on time or the correct amount or any of those things, like under normal circumstances. Guess what's going to happen right now under COVID-19? More of that behavior, right? It's going to be more extreme now because you're going to be the first person that they're going to reach out to say, listen, I'm not going to be able to pay you this month because, right? So in other words, my grandfather always had this wise saying that he shared with us. He said, a man's character is best shown not when times are good. I know it's not when times are good, but when times are distressing. That's when you see a man's character, right? So in other words, how employers treat their employees right now tells you a lot about that employer brand.
Of course it does.
And I think that's something that's come out quite clearly over this process. And also, even in our personal relationships, some of the things that are coming up now are things that have actually always been there. They just have been highlighted to another extent. So almost like if I use the example of the for example, in the sort of correctional service or in the prison setup, I always said that in the prison setup when I work there, it really is almost it's a big smorgasbord. It's a big plate of life. And the reason for that is because there's something that happens to human beings in the human condition. When our freedom is taken away, you get to see our humanity at its best. So it's the good and the bad of humanity. It's a bit like, and I explain to younger people, it's almost like, when you do a hothouse for ants.
Mm-hmm.
So, you kind of do the glass box, you have the ants in there, you put the light on, you can kind of see how ants quickly build a colony and all those things. And that experiment is often done to just speed things up. We create the ideal conditions to speed things up. So this incarcerated or this lockdown feeling is like the hothouse.
Yeah.
So right now we're seeing the hothouse of human behavior. We're seeing the hothouse of economic behavior. We're seeing the hothouse of legalities in an economy.
Yeah.
Right? So almost like this, things are almost just 10 times, 100 times more exaggerated. And we almost just have to work with this new input, this higher sense of input that we have in our lives, right? Mm. If I can just take that somewhere else, Ronald, and ask you, if you can maybe just think for a second, as a business owner, and also just as a human being, right? As you, Ronald, what has supported you the most during this time? What has helped you to stay safe, stay sane, and to stay economically viable? What are some of the things that really you can say, wow, this really, really helped me? So, for example, if I can share quick ones for me, my daily meditation has really helped me a lot. It's really, and the meditation process is one that I've been on for a while as part of my journey, but it really has helped to keep me grounded in this particular. Mindfulness has been a dream for me. So in terms of just always staying with what is present in the moment, with the good, the bad, the ugly. And there has been some really ugly things I've seen during this period of time. Yeah. But it helped me to just stay with it as it is, instead of going into my head about what the past told us, what the future is going to tell us, but just really what is happening now. Exercise. So all these online virtual yoga sessions. I had the most beautiful tantric yoga session with a yogi from Amsterdam. Was a really talented man from Mexico, really. The other day from 9 to 10, and at 10 o'clock I fell into my first session, and I was like, this is an amazing life. This is not something I would do under normal circumstances, So for you, what have you done? What are some of the things, small little tips you can share with our viewers in terms of what has helped you to cope better at this particular point in time?
Well, thanks, Bradley. I think, knowing what worked for you, a lot of that has worked for me too. But I see there was a question posed by Yolandi, because Yolandi, I had the exact same struggle. That struggle of staying in the moment, my mind wanders. I'm describing my mind as being a Ferrari with the brakes of a BMX bicycle. Because Bradley knows this about me well. You can sit and talk to me, but I'll smile and I'll nod, but I'm having 10,000 different thoughts. So to be present in that moment is actually a skill that you need to practice. And that's what I've practiced, Bradley. So a lot of self-talk and awareness of self has worked for me. So it's a combination for me of moving meditation that would work with my martial arts background. I call that Zazen, right? So I move with the meditation because movement is something I really enjoy. So I wouldn't say exercise, I'd call it movement meditation. My self-talk has changed. My
Yes.
acknowledgement of my reality has changed. So what I've coined for myself was that I live with realistic optimism as a business owner. And within that, Bradley, something else that's really helped me in this period is more conscious connections with my daughter. To be more present within the space of that which is most dear to me. And it's
Yeah.
consciously saying when she's on break in school, virtual school, I'm on break from work.
Yes.
We will have lunch together. We
Yes.
will have snacks. We will play together. So it's
Yes.
mini breaks for me. It's connecting breaks for her. And that's what has worked for me in this period. So Yolandi, for me, I mean, Brady will have a wonderful answer for you on that, but it was finding what I connect with the most, allowing me to stay present. If it's something I don't like or enjoy or a grudge purchase, I won't pay attention. I'll struggle to stay in the moment. But when I
Yeah.
connect to one of my values and make it real within, seamless to connect.
Okay. I think beautiful, Ronald, and thank you, Yolandi, and thank you, Ronald, for pointing out that question to me. I was so busy listening to you, I didn't see that. But again, this is where your BMW brain and the BMX brakes comes in handy. You see, yes, Yolandi. So struggling to stay in the moment, and the mind wanders. You know what? The first thing I want to say to you, and I know Yolandi personally from university. We're in university together. She was actually in my class doing applied psychology. So, and a very talented human resources practitioner currently. So Yolandi, this one particularly for you and for everyone else, because you're not the only one whose mind wanders. Our minds sometimes. So let me try and explain this in the following way. So we all have a way that we are structured, right? So sometimes, we in the old days, we used to talk about type A and type B personalities, right? So the type A personality wants to have everything sorted, wants to know how long is this lockdown going to last? When is it going to be finished? How exactly do we keep ourselves safe? What's going to happen at work? When exactly is that deadline for this thing to happen and that thing? And that's okay. That's how type A's are. Type B's are a little bit more chilled. We'll see what happens. We'll go with the flow and all of those things. Now, those two are almost polar opposites. Neither one is better than the other. They're just the way people present in the world. Because even for that person that is a type B, trust me, their mind also wanders. Wanders in different ways, but it also wanders. So the first thing to do is, in fact, I'm just going to quickly, we're a little bit over time, but I don't know if we're okay to go a little bit. I'm not sure. I think we're supposed to go till 4. Can I... Brent, I just want to check with Brent and the team from SimplyBiz if it's okay if we carry on a little bit, or what's the situation? Okay, I'm just going to carry on until I get something, get another indicator here. I'm happy if you carry on. So Stella says I'm happy if you carry on. Okay, Stella. So we'll carry on. Listen, people, if you can stay on, we'd love to have you on. If you have other commitments, another Zoom meeting running at 4, which is also the reality, I completely understand if you need to go. And I wish you all the best. And I want to share this saying with you, which says, namaste. You can see the picture of the Buddha, but namaste is a Sanskrit saying, which literally says, the spirit in me sees the spirit in you. And in isiZulu, sawubona or sanbonani, it's literally that. It says, I see you. So if I say to you, Ronald, sawubona, and you say to me, yebo sawubona, you literally are saying, I say to you, I see you. And you are saying, yes, I see you. And so it's so beautiful. It comes in so many different cultures, So thank you. So SimplyBiz says, please continue. Thank you so much, SimplyBiz. Can you just help me to catch my brain there, because I got lost there now.
Brain went like a Ferrari, Brad. You were in my car for that moment. You were speaking about the different types of personality, A, B, and the B's brain also wonder.
All of our brains wonder. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to just take us all into a short little exercise. I'm not even going to take 2 minutes, and just to show you what you can do with your brain. Okay. So I want you to sit in a way that honors your regal self. So imagine how a good king or queen sits. Huh? Remember, a good king or queen sits, it's almost like they sit so nice and gentle that when they say, move that gate from the yard, it just happens like that. Not the evil red queen. She has to point her fingers and scream, and that's not a regal self. So sit in a way that honors you. I want you to just quite simply place your hands. You can't see my lap, but place your hands on your lap. So just place your hands on your lap for me. I want you to just quite simply bring your attention to your breathing. So you can close your eyes if you're comfortable to do so. If not, you can pretty well keep them open, but just bring your attention to your breathing. Just quite simply bring your attention to your breathing. I want you to notice the quality of the air as it enters your nostrils. You may notice that the air is a little bit cooler. And as you exhale, I want you to notice the heat generated from your own body. Just keep your attention on your breathing. If you find that your mind wanders, quite simply acknowledge it. Just say it's okay. And just invite your mind right back to bringing attention to your breathing. Just connecting with the marvel of your body. This wonderful, life-giving force of just breathing. Now I want you to use 3 sets of conscious breath. So it'll be 6 in and outs, or 3 in and outs, 3 times 2, 6. In your own time, when you are ready, after the 6th breath, that was the 3rd set of exhale. When you are ready, I want you to gently open your eyes. No rush. Gently open your eyes. Gently come back in the room. When you are ready, you might just open your eyes. So, that was just an exercise. How do you feel, Ronald?
Fantastic. You know, you brought consciousness to every sense that I could possibly, from what I could hear, what I could feel. I felt I felt powerful, but I felt calm.
Good. You know what I noticed on my side? I suddenly can hear so clearly on the outside. I can hear the birds in the tree. I even actually just felt in my body, I felt like, whew, it's just better. It's just better.
Yeah.
And that was about, if I really look at the time, that is about 4 minutes, really. That was 4 minutes. It really was 4 minutes. At most, it was 4 minutes. And this is an exercise that, and Namaste, Ina LaRue, thank you. This is an exercise that, it's just a basic, what I just did with you now was a systematic breathing and relaxation exercise. Quite simply just that. Nothing about it. And the instruction is quite simple. You're just bringing your attention to just focusing on your breath and the breathing. Now, actually what we're doing there, we're mimicking a form of mindfulness. So say, for example, remember how adult coloring in books are very popular these days. I remember every you're not a yuppie if you don't have an adult coloring book. So if you don't own one, you better buy one as soon as you can during lockdown, okay? When you're doing that coloring in, the same as when you knit. I can knit, by the way. Did you know that I can knit?
Well, that's like the Chappie rappers. Did you know Bradley can now knit?
So when you do knitting or you do coloring in, even when we are praying, we are bringing our attention to one thing. So that's what I did now. I brought our attention to one thing, to our breathing. That's all. Okay? But that technique is the basis for many other things we add on to that. So for example, do you know that technique, if you give people enough practice over a longer period of time, this technique is used to help people who are unable to hold anesthetics. So they use this breathing technique to allow for doctors to sometimes do things like open heart surgery on them. That extreme. So obviously you don't start today and tomorrow you're ready. You need to build a practice. Yeah. But actually, because what it does is you can change your muscle tone through meditation. So think about exercise. We use muscle tone to change through exercise, but actually you can change your muscle tone. You can actually bring yourself to a deeper state of relaxation. So Yolandi, that was all for you and anyone else who was asking how to deal with the wandering mind. And sometimes we also just have to accept and be gentle with ourselves. right? So for example, let's see, Ronald, is there a particular quality about yourself that you sometimes struggle with, and that you wish you were kinder to yourself? And is anything like that for? And I know I'm putting you on the spot now, but
I mean, I'm my harshest critic. So for me, I must stop, and I would like to stop self-flagellating, because if it's bad, it's compounded. So I'm my harshest critic, rather than my harshest feedback. I frame it as critic, so it's a hard thing for me.
Absolutely. And so sometimes we can push ourselves harder than what we need to, right? Because we have this expectation of ourselves, and that is actually why we almost are looking at it through that lens. And sometimes we think that, oh, I have to do this thing, I must do it, it has to be perfect. I don't know if you struggle with perfectionism. I do.
Yeah.
To be perfect. And when I was much younger, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, I'm much older now. When I was much younger, I really struggled with that tremendously. Things had to be perfect, and they had to be perfect, or otherwise they were just not done. Right?
Yeah.
Now I've sort of adapted a bit more of a relaxed attitude, and I've actually started to learn that part of my own anxiety has been the perfectionism. So when we are that anxious, we procrastinate. Monique's also joined. Hi, Monique. So Monique is saying such a great exercise for entrepreneurs to practice mindfulness, calms our racing attention spans. Boy, oh boy, and do we have racing attention spans?
Yeah.
I'm so glad to see you here. I get so excited. The other thing, I mean, my heart is smiling right now. The other thing that really I want to also ask to say today is, and this is something I meant to say during the course of this period. We talk about social distancing. Right? But social distancing does not have to be social isolation. This is the profound moment where we have to actually connect with our loved ones, our friends, our communities, our business support, your service providers. So, for example, let's say in my situation, service provider, cleaner, who maybe was not able to come and do the job for the last few while, but saying, hey, listen, I'm going to pay you in full for as long as I can, right? Because you matter to my business, you matter to my household for that matter. And all of us have that sort of support. To say, staying in touch with each other. Just, even if it's just staying in touch, saying, hey, I know you're not doing any work for me right now, but hey, how's things going on your side? How are you coping with everything going down? You mentioned at the beginning of this, when you came on, your staff, your employees, boy, oh boy, I cannot begin to express to business owners and to people that employ others how much it means at this time to really ask an employee, how are you doing? How are you coping with all of this? I can hear your child in the background, the very one that you always tell me about. I can hear that person in the background. How is that person doing? And it's beautiful for me to hear from a CFO in a chat, and she asked me, like, how can I do this differently? And I said, you can do this differently by, for example, rather than, and remember, finance people were also under a lot of pressure during this because they have to answer what's going to happen with the business, right? And so the teams are under pressure trying to answer those questions. And I said to her, can you make time on a Friday where you have just a check-in with your team? And make it just like how we talk about coffee sessions. Make it a coffee session where you are just talking about, how are you doing? What is it like for you, all this cleaning? How are your hands? Our hands are raw. I mean, I am so tired of cleaning. I really cannot begin to tell people, cleaning has just been an exhausting thing all around. Cleaning, going shopping, coming back, cleaning shopping bags, doing that, handling paper. I have some important legal documents to sign lately, and I'm so concerned about having to sign physical paper. So I'm wondering, is there a better way that we can do that, But there's so many things to consider. I had to take my car for a service recently, and, they can't wash the car for example. So they have to change how they do business, But the one thing which for me is the universal gift and the gem, which I think I really want to leave everyone with today, is it's this very connection, this very social connection that is going to help us to recover from any biopsychosocial incidents that we may have, right? So we just need to keep it virtually. Stay in touch with your people. Find out how they're doing. Just stay connected. Just how are you doing? How are you coping with this and that and the other? Another quick pointer is we have to start realizing the work-life balance thing is quite tricky at this time. You can't expect any employee to do a full normal 8-hour workday doing just work for you, when actually now they also are homeschooling in the background. They also are cleaning the house. They also are preparing meals, things they never did before. So one of the things in one of the other sort of advisory capacities that I've been working with is an NGO and NGOs obviously work slightly different to other businesses because they normally have their money secured for the next 20 years or something like that. But they literally said to their staff, listen, we know this is a difficult time for all of you. Can you commit just 4 hours a day of good productive work for us? And please, the other 4 hours, use that to take care of your family, take care of yourself, clean your house, do all of those things. And I said, wow, what an amazing thing that is, because actually that employee, from an employee wellness point of view, they're going to last far longer.
Yeah.
Because COVID-19, we are in for a marathon. This is not going to end in the next month, in the 2 months or whatever. It's going to be a long thing. So I say to everyone that I work with, prepare yourself like you're going to run the Comrades Marathon, not like you're going to run a 100-meter race. Does that make sense?
You're totally right with that. And that's why, Brad, it's about maybe shifting. And I mean, you and I had this chat previously, is that resilience is one thing to bounce back. But if you keep bouncing back, it can also be exhausting. Is grit not something we should be looking at? That entrenches the ability of, preventing the dips, preventing the peaks, but maintaining that constant flow of that. I call it that, that inexpressible something within you that gives you that chutzpah. Because every business owner here, I can relate to. We've learned lessons, as Chepo mentioned in a comment and question.
Yes.
We need to take those lessons moving forward, but have that of grit within us to move it forward.
It's almost like that. It's that piece of, I don't know. It's as you said, chutzpah is a good word. And that other noise you're making there, that car, or whatever you called it,
See, you know it. You also have it within you, Bradley.
No, yes, So it's that. Sometimes say it's like the elastic. So the way I describe it always is the elastic. The elastic, you can stretch it and stretch and stretch it, and you get that feeling where as a child, you knew, oh, this is that point. I don't know if you remember as a kid, like for you, and you actually know because you used to dare each other, like how far can it go? And you can see that moment where it's gonna break and splash in your face, right? But if you're clever, you know the exact point of. That's the point. That's the pull point. And then you put it back, right? So as human beings, we are exactly like that. We have to start knowing. So this is where resilience and grit comes in. So grit can be described as, that thin elastic, the one that covered, for example, I don't know how to describe this and forgive me if it's remember the elastic around a chicken licken box? I don't know. I think I'm sorry for that's the best example I can think of. But that elastic has stayed the same over the years. But that elastic is not. It's not very, it's going to break, right? It holds the box closed like this, but it's going to break, right? I think everyone is now mouth-watering about thinking about that brand and the chicken.
Not doing right. Okay.
So, but that elastic, it's not a good elastic, that, right? You know that, right? Then you get that thick one, the legal elastic, the one that ties dossiers together, right? But that elastic can hold a lot of paper, but also it doesn't have that stretch. It only goes so far. So us as human beings are exactly the same. We have a stress tolerance, all of us. So Yolandi, Monique, Michaela, everyone, Ronald, we have our own stress tolerance. We know what we can handle. And within what we can handle, it's the first thing that's important is that we know what we can handle.
Yeah.
So for example, if I just take for myself currently, in the last 3 weeks or so, I also dealt with physical illness as well, and strangely enough, related to my chest, all of those things. So that puts me at risk for COVID-19, right? So I knew that I needed to pay attention. Firstly, I needed to pay attention to my health. I knew I needed to put more support in place for myself, right? And some of that support was I had 2 physicians I was talking to at the same time, following their guidance about what I should do at this particular time. Should I be coming in? Should I be tested for COVID-19? And eventually it was quite clear that it wasn't COVID-19, it was something chest related. But that is something we needed to treat with urgency so that I don't stay at risk, right? Then the second thing was, do we need chest x-rays? We said, let's hold off on that until we really have to, because when you do an X-ray, for example, you become more vulnerable, isn't that so? So these are the things that. Oh, okay. There's Stella's saying, I learned the hard way with burnout to pay attention to my body and lower my unrealistic expectations. You've got it, Stella. You've got it, and you will know that it's something that you have to keep practicing. You have to keep practicing. So, for example, for me, I was just quickly finishing that story. So then I had to take some time off from work, but also work was just busy because this is a busy time. Yes, it's management for life, says Stella. Great. So this is a busy time in terms of work. I mean, my practice is incredibly busy, And when that was done, I was like, look, I also need to make sure that psychologically I'm taking care of myself. I've doubled up my supervision. Right. So supervision for us is, when you pay another psychologist to help you to look at how you're working with certain cases and actually even how you're taking care of it. I had to double that up to say, I need to give myself more support so I can do this sort of work. I needed to rest, put good rest in place. And this now goes for everyone. Like the things that we need to take care of now. One, we need to get good sleep. So remember the rule, 7 is heaven, 8 is great. So 7 is the perfect amount of sleep. If you can get 7 hours of sleep at the right time, so it means, we'd say from 10 o'clock onwards, if you can be in bed by latest 12, there's a reason why 12 is called the bewitching hour. That's the crossing over time where our bodies are definitely need to be in a state of sleep by midnight, right? Get good sleep. Because if you get good sleep, your immune system is slightly more refreshed and is more able to deal with life, isn't it, right? Or deal with any sort of challenges. And those challenges from allergies to COVID-19 to the flu for the season, right? The second thing is nutrition. Eat well. Eat in a way that supports your body and supports your immune system, right? So just eat nutritiously, right? The third thing is, I'm trying to think now, what are the other things that you can do? Manage your stress. So things that are going to stress you out, see if you can them. Right? So for example, if it's going to stress you out to go to the shops altogether, see if you can do online shopping, like for Pick and Pays and Woolies and any of these other grocery shops. See if you can do it. If you can do it online, because if you know that it's too stressful for me to go to a shop, don't put yourself through it, right? If this is a beautiful business example I heard from a woman who's in particularly in executive recruitment, so literally recruiting C-suites only for businesses. So obviously at this time of COVID-19, recruitment is on the slow for everyone. I don't think anyone's recruiting. People are talking about cutting down numbers, right? And she had the wise avoidance already in March to say, I am fundamentally shutting down my operations. And I am branching out into another business I can do, which was coaching. I'm going to focus on that business. And this business, I'm just going to, it's still open, but I'm shutting it down. And I was so taken by almost the wise avoidance. Like she just decided, I'm not prepared to undergo that risk, And so the strategy she shared with me was that she already had started talking to her staff saying, listen, guys, we're still in operation. I can pay you 60% of your salary. This is how it is right now, because the business, it seems like the recruitment business is probably not going to change anywhere until next year, right? So those things. Hello, Fadia, Suleiman, thank you so much. It's so wonderful. Thank you for that feedback. But please, guys, while we're here, tell us what. I almost feel like I'm only getting into the zone now, and I almost want to just say I'll sit here, just like everyone come in, and I will answer whatever questions we can. But Ronald, the other thing, just going back, that I wanted to say to you is, and this is everyone listening, if you haven't formed a connection from a business point of view with somebody that you can say, this is my support in business, please start thinking about that. And this time of COVID-19 is a beautiful time, to show us, there's that saying by Maya Angelou that when people show you who they are the first time, believe them. And during this time of COVID-19, that is 1,000 times true. Because like I said, the way people are behaving right now, that's who they really are. So that's what you're going to see when they are in crisis. So if you go into business with somebody and you see behaviors that are almost not okay for you, trust me that it's going to be behaviors that are going to happen at a later stage in life. So, and if you see behaviors from people now that make you feel like, wow, what a good person that is, right? So in terms of, think about safety, right? If you are committed to somebody else's safety or the safety of a community, there's something amazing that happens there. This is something else which I wanted to throw into the picture here. We also are working on deep levels of trust in this point in time. Trusting one another. So especially as businesses are reopening, people are coming back. There's something profound that's happening there in the fact that, like, you see, when we were under lockdown level 5, things are almost easier. And as an essential worker for myself, I can speak driving home and to work. It's almost like it was a ghost town. There was no one there. It felt very safe to me because there's no one around, right? Even at my office, where I was the only person working from my office and working online. So nobody was coming to my practice. So literally, I was responsible for cleaning the door handles, cleaning the bathrooms, all of those things. And I almost knew that there was no one there. So I didn't have to worry about, did the next person do it? Do you understand what I mean? And now as the businesses are opening, more and more of us have to start thinking, wow, is this the safest way that we can do this? And different businesses, in my experience and what I've observed so far, are almost following different standards. And the reality is, and this is maybe useful to point out to everyone, remember that for any business, no matter how big or small, whether you're a one-man business, you have to follow the Occupational Health and Safety Act as amended for COVID-19, which was done about April 29th. So there's certain requirements that you have to meet. So, for example, you have to screen people, and these are employees, visitors, service providers, anyone that comes onto your premises. These things need to be done. So, so it's really important that you meet the minimum requirements of those regulations, right? Remember, the legalities are, you have to meet them in the minimum, like the basic conditions of employment. You have to meet them in the minimum. If you want to give extra, that's also fine, right? But the minimum needs to be met. So I just want to, Ronald, I just want to read here. There's a question from Stella. I've used this time to take courses on Udemy and hone some skills and to follow my passion for helping people with stress management, been training in companies for years on health and HIV, but now want to work with individuals online. I want those who need life skills and not actually therapy, so I don't cross the ethical boundaries. Okay, good. This is the time to follow my passion. I'm overtraining and traveling. Wow. Stella, follow your passion. I'm going to say, follow your passion, and I see just from the way you've written that, I see you are taking the right steps to kind of get there. So just go ahead and follow your passion, and if I can assist in any way, and I'm sure Ronald probably has a similar kind of vantage point, please reach out and let's support each other in this journey. So by all means, I think go ahead. In terms of career or even business re-engineering, this is the moment. I have been amazed by, for example, people like Uber Eats or any of those delivery companies who suddenly said, when they couldn't operate, they turned around and said, when they turn around, well done, Stella. I'm doing that. I'm doing almost like that Facebook Live story, where people are talking and they stop and they say, hey, welcome, and then they carry on. Sorry, excuse me for that mind running around there. But when those businesses just re-engineered themselves and said, now we're going to deliver essential items. Smart, absolutely smart. It's like, and this is the thing that I've noticed. Things are changing so fast that there's no. If I can just go back to a conversation that was triggered by what Yolanda had said earlier. If things are changing so quickly, many of us are getting a bit of a fright. We're like, what I'm saying? We're getting a fright. Like, wow, what's happening here? I can tell you about the debacle. Among psychologists, for example, psychologists are so used to seeing people face to face that suddenly that they've not been able to. Some people have really struggled with that. They've struggled to how to make a session work virtually, right? The same as, can you think of any other business? For example, in your industry,
if you look at the fitness industry, look at the health industry, the tele side of health and the virtual side of health even forced industry change from the Health and Professionals Council of South Africa. It forced medical aids to reform because of the need and the demand. So within that space, it's a constant evolution of what's happening. And the way I look at it is like, we've built with Lego pieces, it's crumbled. How are you going to rebuild? What are you going to use?
Yeah.
Can you bring new elements of the Lego? Now you have the ability and the creativity to, like you said, re-engineer and rebuild. And Stella, the key part of that I found as a business owner is that I told my team, we're going to sever areas that do not speak to our passion. And I said to them, in each of your divisions, what is the why of you doing what you're doing? And if it can't resonate in your heart, in your soul, then it's not the why. And by focusing on the passion and the purpose, it just automatically has this snowball effect into innovation, creativity, and fighting through the tough periods that we face as business owners.
Yeah, perfect. Ronald, I'm just looking at the time now. It's 2 minutes before 4:30. It really has been a wonderful discussion, and I really want to thank you for joining, and thank you for sharing your presence. And I think it really has helped me to unlock what I can offer to everyone else by just having you present. So I really want to thank you for that. And if you don't mind, I'll as we finish, I'll get you to stay on because I want to share. I want to share something with our viewers, and this is going to be the way that I bow out. There's two things I want to do. You know, I like music and I like poetry. So I'm going to see if I can read from my computer. It's a bit small, but so I just don't want to be straining my eyes while while I'm reading it.
Thanks, Michaela.
What is that now? There's a lot of things.
Michaela's got that car, Bradley. She's got that inexpressible passion and desire. Tell her I feel it, energy.
Okay, good. Thank you. I just want to pull this up on my phone because I don't want to look like that old person that's straining their eyes on the computer. Because I did this morning as well. I had to lean in. When you lean into, sometimes it just looks like you're not managing. So let me just try and get this sorted out here. So everyone, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave you with a poem. And this poem means a lot to me. And I want you to just, again, people also think that meditation and mindfulness, it's something that you do, but you can also meditate. So I'm going to use this poem and leave you with this poem as a form of your meditation. So I'm going to be using now what's called a word meditation. Okay. And I want you to hold on to this poem. In fact, I'm going to type it in the, well, you'll find it. I'm sure that we can ask Brent and team to put it up, or if anyone wants it or whatever, we can share it. But the poem is quite simply just called The Guest House by Rumi, right? And I'm going to read it and I want you to just listen. So it says, The Guest House. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house, empty of all its furniture. Still treat each guest honorably. He or she may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door, laughing, and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. And this poem has always, this is mindfulness in a short little bite-sized chunk. If you just listen to that, it's mindfulness in a short bite-sized chunk.
Awesome.
So, Ronald, thank you. Everyone at home, thank you, SimplyBiz. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and thank you for holding this beautiful, the word I want to share with you today is a sangha. Holding this sangha. Sangha is in the sort of meditation space, we talk about a sangha. It's a collection of like-minded people together. And then I shared this with somebody else, and they said to me, in isiXhosa, sangha is also an embrace. It's a hug. So thank you to SimplyBiz, to Michaela and the rest of the Javelin team that have also helped to make this possible, and to Monique and her team that have made this possible from the SimplyBiz Nedbank side. Thank you for this sangha, for this wonderful sangha, for bringing small business owners together into a community of care, So be well, everyone. Be safe. What I will do is, I think Brent showed me how to do that yesterday, but you can get hold of me. My website is just www.bradleyrdaniels.com. You can get hold of me if you would like, if you need some support in terms of psychology or anything. All the details are there that if you do require that. But I want to leave you all with something so fun. I just cannot get enough of this. And I know it's probably going to be a bit tacky to end in this way. I can't get enough. It's this song. I must play this song. I must say, if I just can get it on my phone, and I think it's perfect for this Friday, for any Friday going forward. I don't know if you know what song this could possibly be, but I'm gonna play
it. Bradley, you will go here. I love it.
So, I think this is the innovation that can come up. This song is on iTunes. Yeah. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you for being with us. Have a good one. Cheers.
Bye. Have a brilliant day.
Thanks, Ronald. I'll stay on for a little bit. But everyone, you're welcome to go when you're ready, but I'll stay around if in case anyone has something to ask. I see SimplyBiz has just put my website up there. Thank you. Enjoy the song and move. Keep moving. Dance. Just keep yourself happy. Thank you. This song doesn't leave my mind. I tell you, it just.
I must play my song I was playing earlier, from the Tavares days to the old jazz. I was in that flavor this morning. You know, I was marinating, Bradley, in that flavor. And the one song that you do always, that Mio Lego song, I love it. I play it for my team often.
Okay.
You know, to bring that collective energy and spirit in, man. As we say, you know, it's the Asanga, yes, but also, as you say, it's that virtual hug and embrace. I win.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody. I don't even know how to end this, but goodbye, everyone. And I hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful time forward. And I'm here. We're here to support you in whatever way possible. So really, I'm here to support you, and SimplyBiz is here to support you. Reach out. Take the support. Stay well, stay safe, and stay sane, everybody. Thank you very much.